My favorite thing about the Dark Souls games is that you can fight the same boss with the same weapon, same armor, same level over and over and over and over again, and eventually you will win. Not because your character changed, but because you did. The boss itself didn't actually get easier, you just got better at reading it, predicting it. And a few weeks ago, I finished playing a game called Blue Prince, and I realized that this game gave me some of the exact same feelings that I get playing the Dark Souls games, particularly the first time I ever played them. Which is strange because on paper, these two games don't have anything in common. One of them is a bleak action RPG about undead knights, bonfires, flasks, and dying to a boss whose health bar is larger than my mortgage payment. The other is a quiet, cozy little first-person puzzle game where you are exploring a mansion, you're taking notes, you're drafting rooms, and you're convincing yourself that the wallpaper is trying to talk to you and tell you something. Different games, different genres, different vibes. But the more I played Blue Prince, the more I felt that exact same specific kind of progress that I felt when I played Dark Souls for the first time. It's not about numbers, it's not about better stuff, it's about how I understood the game. Actual progress in how I understood the world of the game. And I think that's the thing that connects these two games. You see, both Blue Prince and Dark Souls are both built on a hidden progression system. And that system is the player slowly learning how to think like the game. So a quick explanation. Blue Prince is a first-person puzzle mystery game where you explore a strange mansion called Mount Holly. And every day, the layout of the mansion resets itself. And every time you open a door, you get to choose from a set of 3 blueprints to decide which room appears next. So you're not just exploring the house, you're actually building it each time you complete a run or a day within the game. Your goal, at least the one that the game presents to you right off the bat, is simply to reach room 46 at the far end of the map. Seems simple enough, but as you'll soon learn, it's the opposite of that. It's not simple at all. Because the longer that you play, you realize that one simple goal expands into hidden secrets, strange rooms. Every time you answer one question, it seems like 5 more rise up to take its place. I mean, the game itself literally tells you to grab a notebook. And so I did. I grabbed this small notebook and I started filling it with the names of rooms, weird drawings of statues, weird obscure notes that, when viewed out of context, probably make me look like an insane person. But honestly, the notebook became one of my favorite parts of the game because Blue Prince does not just give you puzzles, it gives you a bunch of unfinished thoughts. And that is really where the Dark Souls comparisons in my mind started to click for me. A lot of games will teach you by explaining their systems to you. They will pause the action, they'll open up a tutorial window, they will highlight important objects, they'll often tell you where you need to go, and sometimes they'll even tell you exactly what you need to do when you get there. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that. There are plenty of amazing games that follow that formula. But Dark Souls and Blue Prince do something different. They teach you by allowing you to misunderstand them. Take a look at Dark Souls. The game will teach you, here's how you attack, here's how you block, here's how you roll, here's your health potion. Good luck, idiot. But it doesn't fully explain to you how you're supposed to think and approach the world. It doesn't tell you where to go. It doesn't even outright tell you what your stats mean. You have to kind of drill down for that information, and the game will allow you to accidentally wander into the catacombs 5 minutes into your game and get turned into soup by some skeletons. It lets you make those mistakes. And then it trusts the player to ask themselves the question, am I truly just this bad at the game, or do I just need to come back here later? And that question is important because that is the beginning of you learning to understand how the game thinks. And Blue Prince does the same thing. It doesn't tell you which rooms matter. It doesn't tell you what details you're supposed to be writing down in your notebook. It doesn't even explicitly tell you when something is a clue necessarily or if it's just decoration. It lets you sit in the pocket of uncertainty. And slowly over time, you begin to realize that that confusion that you feel is not a wall, it's an invitation. A very common loop during a day or a run of Blue Prince is that you set out to answer question number 1. Maybe you want to open a certain door. Maybe there's a certain room that you want to find because you know there's a puzzle in there that you think you have the solution to. And then you finally get to that thing and you're about to answer that question number 1 before you realize that question 1 is really just a smaller segment of question 10. And here you were thinking you were solving this one thing, when in reality that one thing is just a stepping stone to a much larger problem. And that can be exhausting, and quite frankly, a game like this could easily collapse under the weight of its own mystery. But the reason that Blue Prince works so well is because the questions continue to multiply at roughly the same pace as your understanding of the game. You're not just out here collecting answers, you are building this mental model. And this is exactly what Dark Souls does. In Dark Souls, your question that you might have is, how the hell do I beat the Taurus demon? How do I defeat this giant demon that has a telephone pole for a weapon? But eventually you realize that's not the actual question. The real question is, do I understand what it is the game is asking from me? The Taurus demon boss is not asking you, can you kill this boss by whacking it? It's asking you, can you turn around and look up? Because just a few scenes before, the game explicitly taught you something about drop attacks and how powerful they are for a boss. You see, the Asylum Demon, the tutorial boss of Dark Souls, that's your first lesson. The Taurus Demon's the first pop quiz the game gives you. It says, hey, were you paying attention? Use your environment, look around. The boss fight is bigger than the floor you're standing on. And likewise, Blue Prince sort of does the same thing, only with puzzles. A locked door is not always about the locked door itself. A clue is not always immediately useful the moment that you find it. Sometimes the game is trying to teach you a language that you just don't quite understand yet. Every death, every dead end, every wrong turn, the game is telling you, look here, you missed something. You will learn from every failure in these games. And that is where my handy notebook became really important for me, because in Blue Prince, as I was playing, I never felt like writing in this thing was a drag. I never felt like it was homework. It just felt like survival. It became a necessary part of the game. I was sitting here writing down names, tracking theories, making tiny little connections that probably meant nothing, but maybe they meant everything. And the more that I used it, the more that this notebook felt like it was part of the game itself. Like the mansion had escaped my monitor and now it's here, it's on my desk, it's in front of me. I'm thinking about it days and weeks ahead of time. I'm still thinking about it now, and I haven't played it in over 2 months. And the other thing weird about the notebook is that it also reminds me of the bonfires in Dark Souls. Because in Dark Souls, the bonfire itself is a checkpoint. It's also the place where you sit down, you breathe, you collect yourself, you make your character stronger. You think about whether you're ready to continue pushing forward into this new level or if you should turn back. The bonfire is the place where your experience turns into strategy. And the same thing was happening in my notebook with Blue Prince. Because in Blue Prince, when the run ends, the layout disappears, the mansion resets, but my notes do not. But we should probably also acknowledge the fact that, yeah, these games are very different. Mechanically, emotionally, they're entirely different experiences, different games as a whole. Dark Souls is hostile. It's a bleak, lonely, and oppressive world. You feel like you're exploring the corpse of a place that once was. Blue Prince is very different. It's elegant, it's quiet, it's calm. It's not hostile, it's suspicious. The mansion itself doesn't feel like it wants to kill you, of course, but it wants to watch you think, which in some weird way is more disturbing. Dark Souls makes you afraid of what you're going to find around the next corner. Blue Prince makes you question what the meaning of the corner is. The difference there does matter because Dark Souls' teaching mechanic is danger. It is that fear that drives the player to learn, whereas Blue Prince is teaching you through attention. It's telling you to pay attention and be perceptive. It trains you to look closer, to wonder if a detail matters, to make yourself constantly ask, am I overthinking this? And then just often enough, it will reward that overthinking, which is dangerous because when a game teaches you that overthinking is going to lead to good results, well, you become highly paranoid and suspicious about everything. And that is how this game, Blueprints, gets into your head. It's not threatening you, it's just sparking that curiosity. The best feeling in both of these games is not inherently winning or killing the boss, it's that understanding, it's that light bulb moment, mastery of the game, mastery of the world that you're in. In Dark Souls, there's always this magical moment with a boss where the boss fight itself seems to slow down in your head. It's not to say that the boss is literally moving slower or attacking slower, it's just that your understanding, your pattern recognition of that boss deepens over time. You recognize the tells for the attacks. You know when the game is trying to bait you into being greedy. And that thing that maybe once felt impossible starts to feel readable, easy. And that right there is the rush. It's not, oh, I beat it. It's, oh, I understand this thing now. And Blueprints gives you that same exact rush in a different way. That room that has felt meaningless since you started the game, all of a sudden, something is revealed. A clue that you wrote down 2 weeks ago is suddenly relevant and makes sense to you. And that one giant puzzle that seemed so overwhelmingly daunting to figure out suddenly starts to take shape in your mind. And again, that feeling is not just, oh, I solved the thing. It's, I understand what the game is telling me now. I am speaking the same language. And that kind of satisfaction will always feel different because it's inherently earned by the player. The game is not dragging you towards an answer with quest markers or maps or compasses or anything like that. It's trusting you to become the kind of player that's going to find the solution. And to me, there's always something special about games that trust the player to change. Not just the character that you control in the game, the player. Games that understand progress isn't just something you put inside of a menu or a skill tree. One of the best moments in gaming is when something that felt random suddenly has meaning. It becomes readable. The boss wasn't random. The mansion wasn't random. You just didn't understand how to see it yet. And so yes, on the surface, Dark Souls and Blueprints are wildly different games. One of them is about swords and monsters and death and decay. The other is about rooms and notes and a mansion that seems specifically designed to make you question your life and the choices you've made. But underneath all of that, I think the two of them are doing something very similar. They are both rooted in learning a system from the inside out. They are both about confusion slowly becoming familiarity. They are about failure turning into information. They are about returning to that one thing that seemed impossible and then realizing that you have changed. Not just your character, you. And both of these games have traditional progression too, of course. Dark Souls, you can level up your character, you can upgrade your weapons, find better armor, etc., etc. Blueprints has their upgrade discs and their allowance tokens, things that let you permanently increase your odds. And those things still do matter. But for both of these games, they feel more like scaffolding to the real progression that's happening in a place much more quiet than the game world itself. It happens when that certain boss starts to slow down. It happens when a question you've been carrying around in your mind for weeks is suddenly answered. It happens when you realize the game wasn't teaching you how to win, it was trying to teach you how to think. And that's why I haven't been able to shake this game, this Blueprints. Because like Dark Souls, it understands that the best kind of leveling up in a video game is not the kind that happens on the screen within a menu. It's the kind that happens between your ears.